Soviet Invasion of Czechoslovakia. On the night of August 20, 1968, around 200,000 Warsaw-Pact soldiers and 5,000 tanks rolled into Czechoslovakia to crush the Prague Spring, a short-lived experiment in liberalization within the communist state. Czechoslovakians resisted with demonstrations and other non-violent acts, but Soviet armor quickly overpowered them. The reforms introduced by First Secretary Alexander Dubek were overturned, and his successor, Gustav Huskay, ushered in an era of normalization. Communist rule had been firmly established in Czechoslovakia in 1948, when pro-Soviet forces seized power. Under Joseph Stalin, the country was tightly controlled as a Stalinist state until his death in 1953. After 1964, cautious reforms began, but for many citizens they were insufficient. By 1966, students and intellectuals were demanding changes to education and an end to censorship. Discontent also grew in Slovakia, where leaders such as Dubek and Huskay criticized what they saw as Czech dominance within the government. In January 1968, Anton Novant was forced out as first secretary and replaced by Dubek, who was unanimously chosen by the Communist Party's Central Committee. Dubek turned to the public for support, and enthusiasm for his reform agenda was overwhelming. By April, the new leadership introduced its action program, which called for democratic elections, greater Slovak autonomy, freedom of speech and religion, an end to censorship and travel restrictions, and sweeping economic reforms. Dubek described this vision as socialism with a human face. The public embraced the changes, and the flourishing of art, culture, and political debate became known as the Prague Spring. In June, a petition titled 2,000 words pressed for even deeper reforms, alarming Moscow and its allies in Poland and East Germany, who feared a collapse of communism in Czechoslovakia. Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev warned Dubek to reverse course, but buoyed by public support, he ignored the threats. He refused to attend the July Warsaw Pact summit, but met Brezhnev in early August at Iony, followed by a conference of communist leaders in Bratislava. Although the final statement hinted at compromise, the situation remained tense. On the night of August 20th, Warsaw Pact forces including Soviet, East German, Polish, Hungarian, and Bulgarian troops invaded in the largest military operation in Europe since World War II. Armed resistance was minimal, but civilians filled the streets, tearing down signs to confuse soldiers. In Prague, troops seized media outlets. At Radio Prague, journalists resisted until soldiers stormed the building, killing about 20 people. Some underground stations continued broadcasting for days. Dubek and other leaders were arrested and taken to Moscow. Protests continued, and more than 100 demonstrators were shot dead by occupying troops. Although nations such as China, Yugoslavia, and Romania condemned the invasion, no major power intervened. Many Czech and Slovak intellectuals and professionals fled to the west. On August 27th, Dubek returned to Prague and emotionally announced he would scale back his reforms. Hardliners quickly gained influence in the government, and Dubek was increasingly sidelined. Following anti-Soviet riots in April 1969, he was removed as first secretary and replaced by Huskay, who cooperated with Moscow. Dubek was later expelled from the Communist Party and reassigned as a low-ranking forestry official in Bratislava. 2 decades later, the Velvet Revolution reignited calls for democracy. In December 1989, Huskay's regime yielded to demands for a multi-party system. He resigned, and Dubek re-emerged as chairman of the new parliament, which soon elected playwright and former dissident Václav Havel as president. Havel, a symbol of resistance since the Prague Spring, had spent years silenced by censorship and persecution, but now helped guide Czechoslovakia into a new democratic era.